Hey, what's up, Shaman King fans, and welcome back to What's the Difference, the Shaman King edition, where I compare the various different media adaptations to a series. So that means comparing the Shaman King manga to the 2001 anime series to the 2021 animated series. Currently, we are seeing Chocolove versus Peyote and a possessed The Boys. Now, in terms of the manga and newer anime series, this is during the first round of the Shaman fight in Tokyo. And Chocolove has been put to the forefront to really kind of show off what he's got for Ren and Horohoro's team, the Ren. Meanwhile, in the original animated series, this was revamped into an encounter by one of Hao's followers in order to take out some of Yo's friends. That way, Yo will have no choice but to concentrate on getting stronger. On the one hand, I feel as though making Hao's followers not competitors in the shaman fight, but more of general mooks who are more of annoyances than anything else for our heroes, kind of demeans them to a certain degree, but the way they do it in the original anime at least kind of makes it so that Yo and his group grow more as a collective and as friends, more so than the manga and the original animated series, where we don't really get to see a lot of their bonding moments for the most part. But you have to question whether or not you prefer more of the bonding moments to build up Yo and his friend group, or do you care more about actually getting to what the story is all about? And that really is the shaman fight. Because this is the thing that everyone has been training up to this point, and is the whole reason why our group even came together in general. So, it's a little bit hit or miss on both sides, at least in my opinion. Let me know yours in the comment section below. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, as I try to regularly bring out these episodes every week that an episode of the 2021 series comes out. But let's jump in, shall we? Okay, so basically Peyote is congratulating Ren especially on figuring out exactly what his ability is, and that he's controlling everyone, namely the boys, with the specific spirit. And he introduces them to Carlos and Juan, these famous Mexican mariachi band, who were mostly known for their more volatile tendencies. It's actually pretty fun. And of course, Chocolove takes a little bit of offense to how Peyote is doing this, as it really does put the boys in more danger more than anything else. And I really do love the action that the newer anime puts there. Every once in a while, the newer anime does manage to get in some really good action, but not all the time. Chocolove tries to go specifically for Peyote, but then you see that Peyote is controlling these miniatures. And I gotta really give props to Chocolove's speed. He is intensely fast. Definitely the fastest out of the entirety of Yo's friends group. It takes one from the little mariachi guy. Unfortunately, the newer anime does not have Peyote kind of introduce all the various different dolls that he has under his command, which is actually a pretty funny joke. And of course, Ren gives the explanation initially, but he mostly just says that they're Calavera dolls. In the manga and newer anime, it's Anna who gives the full explanation as to what Calavera dolls actually are. Give it a little bit of props to Mexican culture and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, the older anime really doesn't do that. So props to the manga and newer anime for actually trying to give a little cultural information. It really does kind of show the big brains on both Anna and Ren, that they understand multiple cultures to at least a certain degree. Honestly, Peyote is definitely one of the more fun looking minions of Hao, especially in the application of how he uses his oversoul. And he uses his guitar in order to strum a melody that controls the various different spirits, and he's using the boys basically as tools. is actually interesting because whereas in the manga and newer anime, it's Manta who's showing a lot more sympathy towards the boys' situation. And this has kind of become a little bit of a growing thing for Manta, that he sees a lot of the plight that certain people are going through and he empathizes with it. But whereas in the older anime, since Manta wasn't present during any of these goings on, it's Yo who takes the more empathetic role, if in order to kind of flesh out his character and have him be seen as a more kinder entity, as it is within Yo's character to see the plight of others and empathize with them. Although they don't have the moment where Faust actually kind of connects with this, since he also uses bones. And then he comments on how the boys came to Hao in order to gain power. But although B is just people used by Hao, like that in the older anime, Chocolove actually kind of relates to the boys to a certain extent because of their more performance-based passion. It's a nice little bit of empathy on Chocolove's side. And so, Peyote goes on the offensive. Chocolove has no choice but to try to, combat all of this. He's still trying to go directly for Peyote, but he ends up being caught in the crossfire. It's also interesting because in the manga, it's Horo who is the one to tell him just finish off the boys and be done with it, because it goes into Horo's more hot-tempered nature. But in the original anime, it's actually Ren, where they're actually trying to keep Ren's more hot-tempered nature and his more ruthless nature, and them not wanting to directly apply that to Horo. But I kind of like the direction that they've gone with Ren in terms of the manga and newer anime, because Ren is starting to kind of come to this calmness within his soul. He's found this sense of balance that they're not trying to throw out of whack. Whereas Horo, it's a consistent angle that they put towards his character. Horo is very hot-tempered, he goes a little wild, he's fully willing to do what needs to be done. Interesting juxtaposition. But I do enjoy Chocolove's conviction. That's something that a lot of anime love to really put at the forefront, people who will stick by their convictions no matter what. And then he's basically taken down, although in the manga he's kind of taken down, he's a little bit almost looks like he's down for the count, whereas in the anime, the older anime, he's just putting off more Furyoku. And this comes from the fact that in the manga, this is the point where we start to get into Chocolove's backstory. I also forgot to mention, for the manga, we're in volume 13. We just finished off chapter 115, Man and Tecolote. And now we're in chapter 116, Chocolove's Christmas. For the OG Shaman King anime, we're in episode 37, Joke King. And for the new Shaman King anime, we're in episode 20, Chocolove's Christmas. And as we enter into chapter 116, for the older anime, I have to kind of jump back a little bit, as we were pretty much shown all of Chocolove's backstory for this episode very early on. And in all versions, we end up in New York in 1998, which honestly, the newer Shaman King anime doesn't regularly put out the dates and stuff like that, so I'm kind of surprised they actually decided to put it in here. It's just like to kind of show you, this is still kind of like a time period within the series. So we enter into New York, and whereas in the manga and newer anime, we actually have a man being held at gunpoint by none other than Chocolove, who was in a gang when he was still very, very young. I think at this point he would have been 10 or 11, and they end up going after this guy, taking presents home to his family, and Chocolove shoots him dead. It's pretty messed up. Seriously. Puts this darker tint to Chocolove. Chocolove's is part of this gang. He'll gun down anyone, anywhere, for any reason. And then one of his gang members tells about Chocolove's backstory, that when he was real young, someone had broken into their home, killed his parents. It's very much a dark tint to the character. There's a bit of sympathy that's built for him to a certain degree. He moved from orphanage to orphanage only to end up with this gang, and all of that happened on Christmas. That's why he has this feeling towards Christmas. And then he meets this old man. Whereas in the older anime, it was this guy with this hostage who he was holding to gunpoint, and then the old man who was already Chocolove's master goes in to kind of defuse the situation. So in one you see Chocolove's life before he met the old man, but in the other they make it so that that backstory, that darker tinge to Chocolove's backstory, doesn't even exist. He doesn't even have the scar from the gunshot from when he was younger in the older anime. And the old man pretends to be bleeding from the mouth, that he's dangerously sick. But a lot of the gags are based all upon Japanese puns, which just make no sense for America. And then Chocolove actually threatens the old man, telling him to get lost. And Chocolove is not having any of this guy. Ready to just gut him down. It's Christmas and he's in a bad mood. And the old man just manages to dodge out of the way easily. And it's interesting because the old man doesn't see just a gangbanger. He sees a kid whose, soul needs saving, basically. It's actually a very interesting way of going. He knows the sadness behind Chocolove's rough exterior, but he realizes this kid's just gonna keep resorting to violence, so beat his ass just a little bit, and just bam, gives him a nice little punch. Spirit punch! And Chocolove hears his words about saving the world with laughter. He does find that a little humorous. Chocolove has long since lost the ability to genuinely laugh. He just sees death and destruction as the only way of life, and that's what he's chosen to be. But then Chocolove had also noticed the spirit behind the old man, which the old man is surprised by. Just like, oh, you can see the spirit. And so he realizes that Chocolove has the shamanic abilities and can be his successor. And with that, we end up in volume 14 of the Shaman King manga. And in it, we cut to Chocolove already pretty much living with the old man, having taken him on as his master. And he's ready to begin Chocolove's shaman training and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, in the older anime series, we're introduced to him as this brave man, just, wants to tell jokes to people. And we actually see that he managed to defuse the situation, oddly enough. Whereas, it's funny too, because the manga presents it that, like, the old man's jokes are terrible. They're just awful. But in the original anime, they make it so that, no, he was actually able to make people laugh. Laughter is a way of easing somebody's hearts, and that's what drew Chocolove to the master. And the master was unfortunately getting very old and sickly, and ended up giving Mick over to Chocolove because he recognized the power within him. And the whole poem of the Black Jaguar is told to Chocolove in this moment, and then he just kind of passes away, just then and there. It's a very ambiguous end to his master, but it also kind of paints this kind of nomadic lifestyle that, the old man didn't want for much, and he didn't have much, but he did, have laughter, and he did what he could where he could. Whereas in the manga and newer anime, after going to not McDonald's, Chocolove is taking just a little bit of a break after all of his training, and he actually likes living with the old man. It gives him a little bit of purpose. It helps him have some kind of focused in his life. And you actually learn more about the older man, that he's a shamanic person from South America. His name Orona. He was a traveling comedian and all this. Unfortunately, Chocolove's gang comes back to kind of confront and for the most part, re-recruit him into their ranks, mostly just because they don't get as much money without him around. They basically just liked him doing most of their dirty work, if nothing else, and they even went as far as to beat up the old guy in order to make their point, and he couldn't really fight back since he didn't have Mick with him. And Chocolove's anger kind of comes to the forefront on that, but that's what they want. And Orona is trying to get Chocolove away from those negative emotions, but these guys are just determined to get Chocolove back to their side, even going as so far as to threaten the old man. But the old man is kind of made peace with this. He's made peace with the fact that he's going to die, as he already is in the process of dying. That blood from before, it wasn't fake, it was real. He doesn't want Chocolove to continue down this dark direction. This Chocolove situation is more or less a little bit of redemption for him, a chance to have his teachings live on for the most part. It talks about how the young of his tribe were kind of swayed by modern living, and how a lot of the forests and nature of the world are giving rise to cities and such. And that's what's starting to eat away at people's souls. That's what's resulting in the gang members of Shaft. Cities that eat up the youth and just churn them out into these, cold people who would kill someone without even a second thought. And he recounts that, the Jaguar is this powerful spirit, and that Chocolove has this inner spirit within him, this ability to overcome even the worst of situations. And he gives Chocolove this one last mission before he's gunned down. It's interesting too, because the one gang member who shoots down the old man, he seemed to be a little bit more nervous about the whole situation. Like, deep down he didn't really want to do the guy in, but in the newer anime, he just kind of been like, okay, dude, you don't want to shut up? Then I'll shut you up. And it's Chocolove kind of just seeing another parental figure in his life just be lost once again. And he kind of loses it, but he doesn't just lose it in anger, he starts laughing, and then he releases this huge amount of Furyoku. The ability he calls Gag Wind just releases this massive amount of Furyoku, but he doesn't intend to attack, he intends to make people laugh, which catches a lot of people off guard. Like, dude, this isn't a laughing situation. And so he tries to have the boys go in on the attack. And it's a ability called Oversoul Ayers Rock. I love how completely taken off guard everybody is by it. It's a little bit more humorous in the manga and newer anime because you have this crowd of people who are just dumbfounded by what he's doing. And then you get the explanation as to what Ayers Rock actually is. Like, is that what that's supposed to be? And Peyote does kind of laugh at it, but it's just like, he laughs at it for the wrong reasons. And whereas Horo is ready to jump in, Ren tells him, no, the joke is still ongoing. There's multiple layers. But Chocolove sees it as his victory since Peyote did laugh at least a little bit. But then we see there's actually more to the joke. His own navel is Ayers Rock. The kangaroo is also handmade. It's a double punchline joke. And Peyote tries to just completely dismiss this, only for all the spirits to be laughing up a storm. Like, the boys, Peyote, his spirits, all of them are laughing. Which makes so sense since they should be under his control. But this is Chocolove's ability to free people from the anger and hatred and violence of despair of a situation and just make a stupid joke for someone to laugh at. We also see that Chocolove's gang is actually here cheering him on. And the reason why Peyote lost is because he doesn't treat his spirits as the humans that they used to be. And so Chocolove runs out of Furyoku, but he basically has to just leave it up to everyone else. And whereas in the older anime it's both Ryu and Horo, it kind of makes a little bit more sense for Ren to deliver the finishing blow, because he is the team leader after all. And he brings out the big guns, and BAM! Uses an immense amount of Furyoku to take him out. basically just to show off. And I like that Ren actually gives props to Chocolove and his abilities, and then everyone comments about just how much power Ren actually seems to have. It's insane. Peyote was going to lose one way or the other. I guess that does kind of demean what Chocolove did, but with the fact that Horo and Ryu were able to take him out as well with a combined effort, it's just kind of like, Peyote was never going to stand a chance. It just, he would have stood even less of a chance in the older anime because you still had Ryu, Horo, Ren, and Yo still around. But I like that they're showing that Ren actually has a lot of power, and it came from him looking into the Great Spirit and just being unflinching within that. And even how it's just like, I might want to recruit him at some point with all the power that he has, and thus Team the Ren win. And Horo did nothing, but he tells Horo to thank him for just showing so much spirit and drive. And Horo took it as a personal victory since he won without killing anybody. That even his old friends are there too, even though they can't see ghosts. They've gone in a much better direction as well. That Mick passed on all of the old man's teaching. It was a very sweet moment. In the older anime, this was kind of Chocolove's audition for bringing in him to the fold. And then in all versions, you see that Chocolove's master is kind of observing him. He thinks Chocolove still has a ways to go. It's actually pretty sweet. Although I do love the moment in the newer anime and the manga where Ren's just like, yo, I'm coming for yo ass next. Coming for yo ass. It's actually pretty fun. And I love that his dad's even there to be like, yes, that's the way to go, Ren. And then he's immediately embarrassed by his family being there. And even his hot sister is here. It's fantastic. I love this moment. And it's so unfortunate we don't see it in the older anime. And Yo's just taking it lightly, like, I'm happy that Red won. And Anna's just like, don't be happy, he wants to fight you. But Yo's just like, well, I'll deal with it when that time comes. And then we cut over to episode 39 of the original anime Flower Team, as we see in the various different adaptations the arrival of the X-Laws, bringing in an Iron Maiden, and we even see Lyserg in his new X-Laws uniform. Nice little build up to what is to come next. The only difference here being that in the manga and newer anime they arrive by boat, in the older anime they arrive by plane. That's literally just about it. But yeah, there you go. Honestly, this was probably the least amount of content that was adapted for both series. From the manga, we went over about 4 chapters. For the older anime, it was literally the content of about half an episode there and a little bit of another episode that ended up taking up this newer episode, which really does show that the episodes of the newer anime adaptation are starting to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit, just a smidge, to really kind of tell their story properly. Does that make up for how rushed they've been doing the rest of the series? No, not really. But it's good to know that hopefully that still leaves us with a little over 30 episodes that can only get better from here on out. I personally still prefer Chocolove proving himself in the actual shaman fight, but at the same time, giving Chocolove an opportunity to travel with the gang as they go throughout America opens it up to him having a lot more camaraderie with the gang going forward. So really, the differences in adaptations just come down to whether or not how interested you are in the shaman fight itself. Like, do you care more about the tournament, or do you care more about the various different teams growing a little bit more as a whole? How everyone underneath Yo kind of operate. Because I do actually enjoy seeing some of that rivalry sparking within Ren right here and now. It's nice to see. And even how seeing Ren as an actual credible threat pretty good stuff. But really, that's about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which did you prefer? Chocolove's portrayal as just being introduced to the team and then showing off there and then what he can do and can contribute, or him only showing that off in the shaman fight? And honestly, they had 2 months of training, so the people who actually knew what Chocolove was capable of would just be Horohoro and Ren, his actual team in the Shaman King fight. Let me know in the comment section below, and if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notification. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you in the next episode of What's the Difference? Till then, bye-bye.